All right, so my name is Jack Dovey, and today my third session was in the world of sleep. It was hosted by Purple. And there were two guys. One was an actor, and one was kind of one of the spokespeople for this company. And he basically kind of talked about how important sleep is. Sleep is kind of the window to your world. Besides eating and drinking and air, sleep is one of the most important things that you can do for your body. He went into REM first, which is rapid eye movement sleep. And that's when you kind of have your dreaming phase. And he talked about how important that is for restoring your brain. And that's the part where you really kind of solidify memories and things of that nature. He also talked about lucid dreaming, which is when you wake up inside of a dream and kind of live your dream as if you were awake, which was interesting. Then he talked about how you can kind of solve those problems for yourself within your lucid dream, which is interesting if anything comes up that is familiar. Then he went on to talk about these chronotypes. So chronotypes are your genetic makeup and sort of how you are wired in terms of what time you would get up and what time you would usually go to bed. He actually gave a link for this called chronoquiz.com. And he basically said that lions are kind of this early morning type of people. They sort of took out the old models of early bird and night owl and kind of separate it into these four types. But based on your genetics, you can actually figure out where you are in this. And so lion, as I said, that's around 15% of people, real early morning goers, 6 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Then he went on to say bears, which is around 55% of people. It's much more common genotype for a lot of people, and they have around their schedule sort of around like 9 to 5, and that is helpful for them because it's pretty much the way the world is scheduled and the way the world works. Then wolves are more late night creatures, kind of the traditional night owl people, and they tend to be more creative and then dolphins were the last. That's about 10% of people, and that's kind of your insomniacs, people that are constantly awake and only get 3 to 4 hours of sleep and have pretty bad anxiety and, the whole 9 yards. He recommended you kind of want to keep your sleep time consistent, keep it very uniform. Even on the weekends, you don't want to wake up. You don't really want to sleep in. You kind of want to keep your biological clock in rhythm. So that is important. And then he said something about your chronological clock within your brain is set to run for 14 hours, kind of active, and then it resets and melatonin gets secreted in your brain. So that's interesting. Also, the actual sunlight can trigger your feelings of alertness. So if you go outside in the morning, you're actually going to feel more awake, and that's the whole point of sunlight anyway. The photons hit your eyes and triggers a reaction in your brain, and then you get to wake up your body. It also stimulates vitamin D, which is really good for you and helps you feel more alert and energized. Another thing he said is just alcohol is terrible for you, which is probably known, but for your sleep it can really be detrimental, and it's not great. And then he talked about napping, which from 2 to 3 to 4 you can nap for best memory, and you want to do that for around 30 minutes to an hour. And sometimes if you do more than that, you may not sleep well at night, but it depends on how much sleep you've had. And then if you're trying to get kind of a more late night habit, and you want to stay up for interesting things later in the night, you want to do that at 8 p.m. So that was interesting as well. Yeah, so a lot of interesting stuff. My take on it is it's very cool. I've heard some of this stuff before, and I think it's pretty awesome. But there are definitely some cool things he talked about, especially like temperature. You want to keep it at 68 degrees or lower. You actually want to be much cooler. You take a hot shower before bed. It'll help because your body temperature naturally goes up at its highest before bed and then drops very low during the night, which is very natural. So that can actually trigger feelings of sleep.